Okay, and here, I think we're ready to get going with our Finding Pictures presentation. And now I'm going to hand it over to our Curator of Architecture, Mari Nakahara.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prints and Photographs Division Finding Pictures series. Today, we will introduce the travel ephemera in the John Margolies collection. My name is Mari Nakahara, and I am Curator of Architecture, Design, and Engineering at the library's Prints and Photographs Division. My colleague Michelle Smiley will be helping me with this presentation. Thanks, Michelle. Please also feel free to introduce yourself in chat, but be sure to select everyone from the drop-down menu. Before we get started, we want to mention that we'll be answering questions at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, please put them in Q&A, not in chat. A colleague will be tracking your questions in Q&A so that we can be sure to address them at that point. Also, we will tell you this again later in the presentation, but if you would like us to send you a PDF copy of the slides from today's presentation, you can contact us through our Ask a Librarian service. So, who is John Margolies? You have never heard of him. He was born in New Canaan, Connecticut in 1940. As a little child, he immediately developed an interest in roadside attractions. His desire to stop and closely look at such attractions was never accepted by his parents. His adventures really started when he turned 16 years old and could obtain a driver's license. He acquired a BA in journalism and art history at the University of Pennsylvania and enrolled at Annenberg School of Communication. He took a course with Gilbert Seldes, an academic champion of American popular culture, which was rare at the time. After graduation, he worked as an assistant editor of Architectural Record, the top architecture and design magazine since 1891, followed by program director of Architectural League of New York. In mid-1970s, he started exploring the photography of vernacular architecture and took extended road trips across the United States. In 1978, Margolies was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship. He was also supported by Wyeth Gilman Foundation, a national endowment for arts, and the Wyeth, I'm sorry, I have to correct it. He was also supported by Howard Gilman Foundation, the National Endowment for Arts, and Wyeth Endowment for American Arts. In 2003, he was named Josephine Patterson Albright Fellow by the Alicia Patterson Foundation. Unfortunately, he died young, only 76 years old in 2016. Before getting into the Margolies Ephemera collection, I would like to introduce his Roadside America project. It's one of the most comprehensive documentary studies of vernacular commercial structures along Main Street, byways, and highways throughout the United States in the 20th century. Margolies traveled more than 100,000 miles in search of unique and typical examples of roadside and Main Street architecture and design. This shows the Shell gas station in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the Deck, a gift shop which stands in Long Island in New York, and Patsy the Whale for a mini golf course in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, which reminds me of the Holy Moly TV show. Margolies shot approximately 12,000 images in color slides for nearly 40 years between 1969 and 2008. His photographs held at the Library of Congress are in the public domain, while privacy and publicity rights and the photographs of sculpture or other works of art may be restricted by the copyright of the sculptor or artist. Finally, I will start introducing the Margolies Ephemera collection. Margolies Roadside America photo collection is accompanied with a large amount of ephemera. The approximate total count of ephemera in his collection is 3,600, stored in over 100 boxes. Medium varies as shown here, like scrapbooks, postcards, placemats, brochures, advertisement, maps, sheet music, prints, and going on and on. When I looked through the Margolies ephemera collection, I started noticing that the way that Margolies considered travel ephemera is much broader than I expected. For instance, his travel ephemera also contains materials not directly related to travel or travelers, such as catalogs of furniture for hotels and motels, utensil catalogs for restaurants, stack cards and printing catalogs for stores to create signage. This makes really sense since he was always looking at or for unique signage. Categories for the Margolies ephemera I came up with are shown here. First, inspiration, planning, education, souvenirs, and memory, though sometimes items cross over these categories. First, inspiration. Even if we are not planning any travels, magazines and ads are always fun to look through and inspire destinations we may want to travel to in the future. The left is a cover of the Highway Traveler magazine from 1933. A bus running right off from the beach implies that there are beaches easily accessible by buses or cars. The item on the right is a Holiday Inn magazine from December 1964. Looking at people wearing half-sleeve dresses, I first thought this photo was taken in the Southern Hemisphere. But wait a minute. The Holiday Inn is an American chain hotel, and no Holiday Inn hotels existed outside of the United States till 1980s. As a matter of fact, this is a photo of Santa Claus and his helpers greeting from his workshop at North Pole, Colorado, at the foot of the Pikes Peak. It's one of two fantasy lands where people can visit with Santa during all seasons of the year. The other one is called Santa Claus Land in Evansville, Indiana. Both were featured in this volume. If you are a big fan of the Santa or Christmas, you'd probably start dreaming to visit there. As you see here, Margolies' ephemera collection is often linking to his own photos. Shopping is also one of the reasons people consider traveling or one of the entertainments during the travels. The ad in the middle from 1929 Ladies' Home Journal celebrates the 50th anniversary of the Woolworth store. In 50 years, Woolworth expanded to 2,250 stores. On the verso, they advertised special sale of the hairnet. I do remember my mom used to wear it on windy days. This is a 50-page Chicago Marshall Field store book from 1933. This booklet includes views and facts of retail store of Marshall Field and Company, including also brief references to the manufacturing, wholesale, converting, and importing interest of this worldwide organization. This beautifully designed storybook was most likely created to celebrate the city's centennial and expanded visitors attractions who came from all over the world for the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. Travel brochures often stir up people's desire to travel and help them with planning. Yellowstone published two-folded brochures announcing their opening in June. Design motif was bears every year. I particularly like this one, bears waking up after hibernation. The guide on the right is a little over 30-page publication by Sandpaper in Baltimore, introducing many resorts and travel spots. As a significant component, the guide includes an index of the ads at the beginning. Graphic on the cover is interesting. An office girl in early 1940s who was most likely not given significant tasks or was bored with what she was working on is dreaming of going on vacation during her work without noticing telephone is ringing badly. Her boss standing behind her is really annoyed or irritated by her attitude. Planning. Since Margolies travels on the road, there are many ephemera associated with trips by road. One of his extensive ephemera collection is the Greyhound bus brochures, as shown here. Itineraries related to the brochures are sometimes kept together. The one shown here is a trip from Muskegon, Michigan, leaving at 11 a.m., arriving in New York City at 4:15 p.m. next day. The round trip then, around 1935, cost $20.45. The item shown on the left is a letter from Chamber of Commerce in Roanoke, Virginia, providing advice to Mr. Mars for his motor trip through Virginia in 1937. The item on the right is a handwritten document accounting of about 200 stops, including points of interest from Philadelphia, where Mr. Mars lived, to Kentucky. Today, such information is easily found via the internet. Having a cell phone nowadays, travelers on the road could be more spontaneous rather than having concrete travel plans. Here shows detail of the document which Chamber of Commerce provided to Mr. Mars. It includes approximate miles between the cities or towns, the route they recommended Mr. Mars take, and a high spot of interest. Mr. Mars added departure and arrival information on the document, which is circled in red. When I saw Brooklyn Bridge on the bottom left, I was puzzled since I thought it would be the one in New York. Voila! There is one in Kentucky called Brooklyn Bridge. Today, the information that Chamber of Commerce provided is easily found via the internet. And again, having the cell phone, people may travel more spontaneously. Travel prep involves packing. After returning from trips, we are exhausted and barely take a close look at suitcases. When we pull it out for the next trip, we sometimes encounter our surprise. Nowadays, especially to me, oh my God, our wheel is broken. What to do? You can get a new one delivered in a day via Amazon Prime, but it did not work that way in old days. The cover of the Sword Luggage catalog illustrates different types of luggage. When I was little, I always liked the one for cosmetics, which my mom purchased while my parents were living in Chicago in early 1960s and brought back to Tokyo. As a little child, I always enjoyed looking through this box in which lipsticks, nail polish, and other cosmetics were neatly lining in a sliding tray on the top of the carton. Looking into the small mirror on the back of the lid, I was pretending to be an adult, tracing my lips with my finger as if I were putting on lipsticks. As a matter of fact, the blue Samsonite set shown on the right in the Saturday Evening Post in 1960 is the exact one that my parents had. The item on the left is a booklet published by the Standard Oil Company called What is Good Gasoline for road travelers to select appropriate gasoline for better performance. Since Margolies traveled by car, he paid lots of attention to gas. The item in the middle is a graphic chart showing process of gasoline production. People get excited about travel even from the time of packing. At the same time, travelers, especially beginners, build up anxiety, which turns to be lots of stress. This book may be very helpful for these people as it provides tips on trips. I was interested in the section Travel with Children or Pet, since taking my own dog with us on a road trip involves a lot of preparation. It warns that the owner may have to give the dog to the baby boy to keep it in the storeroom or basement of the hotel. At motor courts or motels, the dog may easily stay in a garage at night. Well, I don't like these options. And I think no doubt that pet-allowed hotels nowadays are very popular. Oh, kids. Kids are another factor to often make our travel more difficult. What would be good to make them calm? Games, right? Games are often designed to require concentration, which makes kids quiet or prevents them from getting bored. I think the name Scrum is genius. This game called Happy Highways was distributed to promote stackies. If you get it on the road, it could become a souvenir. Starting at home, following the happy highway, the goal is to be the first to reach to the last resort at the shore of Lucky Lake. On the way, you pass falling rocks, shortcuts, funny forest, dusty town, Camp Kichiguji, Moon Mountain, and of course, 3 stackies. The items shown in the next few slides are, I consider, educational materials related to the US geography. Before heading out to trips, kids should acquire good geographical sense. This is a US inlay puzzle published in 1950s through 1960s. Along the top and bottom borders, abbreviations of each state and state capital are written. The image on the right is blown up. Graphics shown in each state feature their industry and produce, like car industry in the state of Michigan. Kids will build up knowledge on geographical relationship on each state and may develop their interest and understanding of the areas they visit. This item is another example to learn the states. Patiently connecting the dots acquaints children with the relative size and contours of 48 states. Each page includes capital of the state, important geographical information such as rivers, surrounding seas, and nearby lakes, and features industries. It is interesting to see how east side and the center of the state of Maryland connect with very narrow neck, and the state stretches out to the west. This VOLBELL, VOLVELLA, this VOLBELL, titled United States Chart of Knowledge, is designed for a little bit older age group than the two items shown before. Each state is shaded a different color, allowing for easy identification. The names of the states are also present along the edge of the disk. As the central disk spins, information about each state appears in the window cuts into the disk, such as when it became a state, the population of the capital and the principal city, mining and manufacturing products, and more. Of course, this is already outdated, but it's a good running things for 1931. Next category, souvenir. Finally, we start traveling. Dining at high-end restaurant makes your travel very special, for sure. This is a menu for the third room at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. As shown on the cover, high seating with red drapes in tall windows, a round table covered with a white tablecloth, no stains, and flowers as a centerpiece, and shiny wine glasses and utensils. Oh yeah, it makes me feel special. As the menu on the right shows the date of November 19th, 1940, menus are printed every day with specials. My favorite old-fashioned strawberry shortcake was 60 cents back then. $1 in 1940 is worth $21.37 today, so it's about $13 nowadays. Not many people can afford meals at the high-end restaurants every day or may not want to, right? So kids most likely prefer the type of food served at a place like Big Boy. This chain is best known for its trademark chubby boy with pompadour hairstyle, wearing red and white checkered overall, holding the double-decker cheeseburger. This trademark has been changing. Looking at the chart shown in the middle, the menu was used between 1969 and 1981. While the high-end Waldorf Astoria Hotel's menu was printed every day, this menu is laminated to be resistant to food stains, fingerprints, and spills. I did not grow up in this country, so when I found this menu, I asked my husband if drive-in restaurant is equivalent to the current drive-through restaurant. It seems slightly different. While we most likely keep driving if we get food at the drive-through, we stop and eat in the parking lot at the drive-in restaurant. The middle photo shows the waitress blowing cool air into a car, as the right photo shows the food tray was sticking out from the car, a little bit weird to me. But you might have noticed from the caption, this shows on the right is John F. Kennedy in West Virginia at drive-in theater, a drive-in restaurant. After we ate greasy hamburgers or sticky ice cream sundae at the drive-in restaurant, we need to wash up. This soap and towels kit seems to be very handy for many cases, probably equivalent to the current wet wipes or sanitized wipes, I guess. If you are a good planner, you'd pack this kit prior to hitting the road rather than running to CVS to get it. Or you need napkins. The item on the left called mapkin is a napkin on which a road map with lodging and dining information is printed. They sold this at 25 cents each. Maps are also often printed on placemats. Margolies also collected many matchbooks of stores, entertainment places such as bowling alleys, restaurants, cafes, bars, and casinos. When you find a good restaurant, you may want to spread the word to your friends for their future travels, right? So this menu from 1944 is of the restaurant Mike's Ship's Ahoy, located in New York City's premium location of Broadway, Columbus Avenue, and 66th Street. If you address it, they mailed it for you to anybody you wanted to. Good advertisement for the restaurant. Taking a peek of the menu, seafood platter with crab meat, shrimps, half-cold lobster, and lettuce cost $1.50, equivalent to $25.50 today. For your reference, the Legal Seafood restaurant charges $27.95 for the fisherman's platter with shrimp, scallops, calamari, clams, and whitefish. What kind of souvenir shall we bring back to the family, friends, or colleagues? Candy must be one of the most popular goodies. After enjoying the candies, boxes with beautiful illustrations can be used for other purposes. These are beautiful illustrations on the candy boxes. Even if you don't purchase candies as a gift, people often send postcards to family and friends. This is a famous scene of the Empire State Building sent to the family on July 17, 1939. I found this postcard in a scrapbook. It was inserted between the pages from New York City, not pasted. I guess the traveler collected the postcard back from the family and inserted afterwards. Other contents on the scrapbook verify that the traveler, she visited the World's Fair held in New York City in 1939. Travel is not only for fun occasions, it could be for funeral. This trifold handheld fan is from Boyd Funeral Home, Salem, Kentucky. The patent number written on verso. Searching the patent info, this patent is not only for the trifold, but also regulates the wavy shape of the fan. Trips may involve formal occasions such as funerals, weddings, or job interviews, or when I was on an extensive length of the trip, I often had a tough time to find a local hair salon. As written, no appointment necessary on the ad is a plus, essentially for travelers. It also says free popular olive oil shampoo with any permanent if you mention this ad. Anything you grab or purchase can become your travel souvenir. Shown here are beautifully illustrated theater brochure, a unique shell scrapbook, and a tourism photo when you take a boat tour, something like that. Once you returned from trips, you started assembling what collected during trips or writing memories. This is a scrapbook titled Off to Glorious California, our trip to the West Coast via the Golden State Route, March 8th through 25th, 1941. there are multiple pages with ephemera collected at the restaurant Melody Lane. The script in the page before said, "Our dinner that night we had at Melody Lane. Here for souvenirs, we received a large menu, wine list, and big pig face, which given to the children and has children's menu on the back. This big pig face is a mask for children to play with. The big neon sign on the Melody Lane restaurant must have caught their travelers' eyes. Pigs were eventually the motif of Melody Lane, as you see in the ad." And what I saw in other scrapbook included leaves, photos, clippings, and sometimes ice cream wrappers. These are nothing special if we have them in our regular lives, but they become very special during trips. This scrapbook is slightly different. Rather than for a specific trip, somebody assembled his or her ephemera related to architecture by location. These open pages show postcards. The creator meticulously trimmed white borders at the bottom and some portion of the border next to the title. Other pages of this scrapbook look like these. So not limited the postcards, but also some clippings, some magazine clippings, and such and such. Hit music is also part of the Margolies Travel Ephemera collection. This song, "In My Hometown," describes the story of a traveler who visited big towns, comparing them with his hometown. Travel is fun, but when we get back home, we often feel our house, our town is the best, comforting and relaxing. As you have seen, Margolies Travel Ephemera is very broad and diverse. I found graphics for the travel ephemera quite attractive. Travel ephemera serves as good resource to learn history, culture, economics, such as inflation, technology change, and more. This is a website for the story map of the Margolies Roadside America project, which my colleague created. If you visit the map section, you will be able to see all of the Roadside America photos. As a matter of fact, his photos can be ephemera. Would you like to trace the route Margolies drove through? Go for it. I am listing here in some useful resources to search the prints and photographs collection in general, its architecture, design, and engineering collection, and John Margolies collection in particular. If you have any questions, please feel to contact us by Ask a Librarian, or you may contact me directly. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please post in the Q&A, and my colleague will be is monitoring it.
So I see one question in the chat, which I'll read aloud. I also see one participant has their hand raised, and while we cannot unmute you, we do encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A. So from Eric, Eric asks, can you elaborate on the topic of copyright and use when it comes to archiving photographs and ephemera? John's collection is fair use because it's his personal possessions, but does permission need to be gained from architects, sculptors, and designers to use the work represented?
At the beginning, as I mentioned, that we in general at the Prints and Photographs collection are paying a lot of attention if the picture of the John Margolies took present some sculpture, and the sculptor may have a right to it, and we are very careful about it. But buildings, for instance, at my knowledge, exterior would be kind of somebody can pass by and is able to take a photo. So I personally don't consider that's the copyright issue of the building exterior. Interior might have a different, regulation because some private issue or especially resident and these things. But anywhere the public can go and take the photo, unless restricted, should be fine to use it. And some other things that I presented in the presentation, some of them, I tended to collect the images from the items that no copyright was indicated. That doesn't mean that they are copyrighted or not, but and sometimes like a 70-year of the rule of the copyright may be really kind of cut off that, and the items that you can use or not use. Am I answering correctly? Or, am I answering to Eric properly?
I think so. And of course, yes, I think Eric says, yes, thank you for clarifying. So we had a couple of questions come through the Q&A. One asks, after looking through so much ephemera, do you have a favorite kind?
Favorite kind? I loved everything. I loved everything, but if I may have to choose, something that, like a matchbooks that they were graphically interesting, but matchbooks we can still get it. So that's something that I exclude. But like a menus and these things, I did not expect to these materials have more information than I was thinking, like a graphic interest. Of course, first interest was graphically illustrations, and these things were really attracting me to select. But when I looked at more carefully, that, for instance, Waldorf Astoria, that have I been to the restaurant? No. Have I been able to eat there and prove it? No, but I do know the building very well. And back to that time that I showed the menu from 1940, way before, of course, I was born, what kind of, the activities, I could kind of picture very easily still like a very nicely dressed women and men socializing at that play, and taking a look at the menu, and the strawberry shortcake was 60 cents. I wish they kept the same price, but $13 probably nowadays. I didn't check back if they still have the old fashioned strawberry shortcake and then $13 or not. But that kind of brings me the idea, when I go to New York City next time, I may just go there and try it. Try only the strawberry shortcake, not the whole meal. So I would say probably menu. This big boy one, that's also illustration was very interesting. And when I found the information that they periodically changed the trademark using the same boy and changed like either holding the double decker or not, a little bit pompadour, hairstyle changing, and then these things really made me interested.
I love hearing about your favorites. And sort of on that topic, I'm going to jump to a question that was in the chat, which asks, are all of the ephemera online? For instance, the storebook from Marshall Fields. So a question
No.
about digitization.
No. Well, even I would say less than, I don't know what percent, but as I mentioned that at the beginning, that ephemera that in John Margolies collection is 3,600-ish items, and what I scanned is probably less than 100. So you can imagine how many.
Yes, so that means make an appointment with us through Ask a Librarian and come see the many
Yeah,
more
sure.
things.
Yeah.
And we have more questions in the Q&A. One is specific about ephemera, and it says from William, I'm searching for travel decals from the 1940s and 50s. Are there any in this collection?
I have to search more. I'm sorry. Can you send the Ask a Librarian questions through the Ask a Librarian? And I look through more carefully, and we have 100 boxes. But as of now, I should have said these ephemera collection remains as unprocessed. That means we do not have item by item inventory, which we can share with the researchers, but we may be able to kind of narrow down and guess, oh, this box may have it. So if you can send a question by Ask a Librarian, which I believe will be assigned to me, then I can just look into it.
And I put another link to Ask a Librarian right there in the bottom of the chat for anyone else who would like to ask us questions. And there's one more here in the Q&A I see. It's from Catherine. She says, that was wonderful, Mari. Thank you. What are some early examples of mimetic architecture that come to mind? And was there a primary heyday? Or are there recent examples? So I think this
Uh,
means like the fish for the fish restaurant, that kind of thing.
hmm. I have to again refresh my memory. I looked through everything about 2 years ago. But Catherine is my friend and a colleague just behind of me, so we can talk about further. Sorry. Yeah. And I see Bill, Mr. Bastille.
Yes, I see a couple of comments just sharing memories of travel, and I think it goes to show how much this collection is evocative for all of our personal experiences we've had in our own lives, so it can relate to so many things and personal stories.
Yeah, and just off track, but as I mentioned, I didn't grow up in this country, but my husband was, and he's mid 60s, and when he was talking about his memory coming down to DC from Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, and that time that of course, restriction around this area, U.S. capital area, was much more looser. And congressman from Michigan saw their car plate and came close to the car and waved at them. That was such a memory that, my husband had coming as a little, kid in a car, long drive, 8 or 10 hours, and coming down to DC, and then congressman from his own state waved at him, that kind of memory. So I believe everybody has some memory, and not maybe necessary that everybody's creating the scrapbook or memory book and these things, but it may be the time for you all to assemble and organize your photos.
Just thinking this is inspiring me to collect more physical media on my own travels. And I see our chief, Melina Zinkum, has put in a Prints and Photographs online catalog search string for other mimetic buildings in the collection. Well, thank you for
Oh,
that.
thank you, Helena.
If we don't have other questions, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for attending. And I wanted to alert you that this presentation is being recorded. It will be posted later on if you want to revisit it or share it with friends. And I'm sharing a link to our other previously recorded webinars. And we offer finding pictures on different themes most months of the year. And we want to welcome you back in October for a presentation by Catherine Blood and Melissa Lindberg on Native American creators in the collections.
Well, thank you again, and hope to see you again in the future presentation.